it's Liz Yuille from Old Staples Crafts. Thank you very much for joining me again today. Today I have got a little kind of gift box card thing. I first saw this, or something very similar to this, on Mixed Up Crafts YouTube channel, Samantha Clayton, and this is my adaptation of it. It's a card, but it's also a box. So inside is a Hershey bar, cookies and cream Hershey bar. It's a 43-gram bar. I bought this obviously in the UK. I say obviously, maybe not. It measures, I want to say, hang on, I've written it down. It measures 6 by 2.5 by 1/4 of an inch. So that is sort of the size of the box. I mean, it's there or thereabouts from a measurement point of view. So yes, it just slips in and you can close it up. It's quite a tight close because we are talking really narrow measurements. But then we've got hashtag Elfie on the front with Santa's Workshop, and then no peeking. You can obviously write a message here, and then I've decorated the back as well. You could obviously put a ribbon around it if you wanted, but with hashtag Elfie on the front, I don't think it needs anything more. So this was using the beautiful, and I believe as at filming this, feels like frost paper is back in stock in Europe, fingers crossed. I'm now going to make it slightly differently with the Night Before Christmas Designer Series paper. Both of these are 6 by 6, which is perfect for this box. Measurements, you need a card, which is, so this is kind of the lid of the box. This is 6 by 5 and you score it at 2.5. Then the base is 7.5 by 4, and we'll go through the scoring for that, and then you just need a scrap. You'll also need some scraps of Whisper White for stamping on. Now this one I made in thick Whisper White, but obviously I'm going to use Poppy Parade for this one. And the paper I'm going to use is the candy canes, which is the mugs and cookies on the back, and these are cut at 5 7/8 by 2 3/8, and you need 3 of those if you want to put it on the back. You don't have to put it on the back, but if you want to put it on the back, I mean, technically you don't have to put it in the middle either, but I think it's a little plain otherwise. So let me pop those to one side, grab my scoring board, and measurements on this are super easy. Get a scoring tool. All you're going to do is score 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch on each of the 4 sides. So just score, turn, and then half and 3/4. The fiddly bit comes when you are putting it together, because making a box that is 1/4 inch deep is slightly challenging. Of course you could put in 2 bars, in which case you would need it to be 1/2 inch deep. So you'd need to extend by 1/2 inch on both sides, and then score at 1/2 inch and 1 inch on all 4 sides. But I'm not going into that now. And obviously you can use other bars as well. Oh, I've got a mark on that. I know what I've done. I've popped it on top of one of my stamps, which I've not cleaned. But it doesn't matter because it's on the inside. So as ever with this sort of thing, you score and then you burnish. Now I have to say that when I was working out the measurements, I did go wrong a couple of times, but I think I've got it fairly well cracked now. So I make the mistake so you don't have to. So just burnish all the sides. It is quite interesting doing that 1/4 inch, but it's fine. Okay, so we need to, and I like to get this bit done first because this is where I went wrong. On the short edge, go down on the rectangle, this large rectangle, and this small rectangle, leaving the score line outside the rectangle. And then while I remember what I'm doing, because I'm only human, I'm going to do exactly the same on the other end, so that we've got that sorted. Okay, right, so here we're just going to wedge. Don't go mad with your wedging. And then again we're going to wedge there, because these are going to be tabs, so we wedge tabs. And then decide which is going to be your top and which is going to be your bottom, because if you're for your bottom you want the tab to be full length. For the top you only want it to be tiny weeny. And wedge slightly there, and I'm going to call this the bottom, so I'll leave these in place. And then again I'm going to wedge very slightly there, take a wedge there, wedge there, and then lose that small rectangle, so you end up just with the small square that has been wedged. So wedge, wedge, and wedge, and then cut that away, get rid of that, and let me get rid of those bits, and you end up, if I put it that way up it'll stay better. So you've got these tiny squares here. This is the side, the end that you're going to have as your top, and then this is going to be your bottom. Now you can at this point round your corners if you want. For your closure I've got the trio punch. Just fold the side in and punch, and again fold the side in and punch, and then you get the rounded corner. We may need to trim these down a little bit when we come to closing, only because it is a very, very tight closure. Right, okay, so I'm going to add some liquid adhesive onto these tabs, and I'm basically only using liquid adhesive because they're so small. You could use glue dots, a couple of glue dots. Tear and tape is going to be too big, and I'm going to actually leave that for a bit and blow it, just to try and make it dry a little faster, because what we then want to do, get that out of the, there we are, is pop one end in and seal that, and the other one and seal that, and these are going to need to be held whilst they glue, and you want to make sure that you have got them actually on that 1/4 inch at the bottom, because otherwise you won't be able to glue everything shut. It won't line up properly. There we go. So I'm going to pop it on its end and just make sure that those are very well glued. Then I'm going to fold those bits in and just grab, change out my, take your pick, grab a couple of glue dots and pop them on the, actually I'll pop it on there, on the end there, and another one over here, and then, ooh, come on, stick, thank you. Then making sure that everything is square, close one, and then come along, close. You need something to push against, so let's pop my bone folder in. So close one, and then close the other, like that. Oops, that's gone slightly over the end. Just open it up a wee bit, there we go. That's better. Right, okay. Tear and tape, and this is where you can just run nice straight strips, and rarely do I cut my tear and tape, but I want it to go properly to the end, so I'm going to actually cut it, and I prefer to put this long piece down first so that it helps seal down the flap, because obviously it's sticky on both sides, so it just helps make sure that that end is properly adhered. And then you can just grab a short piece to pop on the end, and again just trim that off. Okay, so that's that. Now we're going to leave that for the moment and make our card so that we can then stick it onto our base. So I've got my 5x6 card base. Just score that. You could, if you want, put a white liner here, because that's basically where you're going to write. It's up to you. So with my pieces of candy cane, I'm just going to add a very small amount of adhesive onto my card base, and there is only going to be 1/16 of an inch as a border, so you can go reasonably close to the edge without worrying. And the joy of this is because it is such a small border, you can actually, if you use the liquid adhesive, you can make sure you've got that wiggle room. So that's that. Oh, and of course I should have stuck the piece on the back of my box before I made it up. Never mind. And again, just going to scribble down the middle and then come in and frame my scribble. Pop another piece of designer series paper there and get that nice and square, and then we can press that down. So that's our card, and then we just need to pop something on the back as well. As I say, you don't have to do this step. You can just do one piece of designer series paper, but if we're going to call this, I mean, this is sort of a stocking stuffer, table gift, colleague gift, that sort of thing, teacher gift, those sorts of things. It's not a proper full-blown, this is your Christmas present gift, although of course you could make it with other things than chocolate in my case that would be a plus, because as you know, or those of you who know me, don't do chocolate, we don't get on terribly well. Okay, so that is nicely stuck. Right, stamping while everything is setting. So I've got the Santa's Workshop and the No Peeking stamps. Piece of Whisper White, just a scrap piece. And I'm just going to ink up my workshop first and pop him down. Always hold for a little while so that you've got to give the ink a chance to transfer across, and then ink up a No Peeking, and again just pop him down and hold him, and there we are. So that's our stamping. Now for the original I used both of the Rococo Rose blends and both of the Seaside Spray with Ivory, Flirty Flamingo to give him rosy cheeks, and this was Soft Suede, and then on the inside I used So Saffron Light, so this is Soft Suede Dark, So Saffron Light, and I don't know if you can see, but I've used Wink of Stella on the sort of fur bits. So for this I am going to use Poppy Parade, both the light Pretty Peacock, Flirty Flamingo, Ivory, and the two hair colours. So for his face, if we do the Santa's Workshop, I just give him a rosy cheek and a pink nose, and then come in with my Ivory and just colour that in. I would be tempted to leave your stamping a little bit so you know the ink is absolutely dry before you go in with your blend, because otherwise it might smudge a wee bit. And then just continue colouring. However, in true Blue Peter fashion, I have prepared. So I've got my Santa's Workshop, so that's Poppy Parade, Light Poppy Parade, and then Light Pretty Peacock. Poppy Parade again, and Simple As. My Story Time? No, it's the other one that I can never remember. I really must put a label on it. It is Punch 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 in the annual catalogue, and it is called Timeless Label. So the Timeless Label punch, I'm going to come in and punch close to the bottom. And then I'm going to pop it back in, and let's go in this way. Pop it back in, make sure it's straight in the punch, and then punch at the top. So we've lost that little bit. And then I'm actually going to bring in a long pair of scissors because I find it easier with long scissors. I'm just going to trim the hair of a smidge off the end, and it wasn't even straight, I say the end, the edge of the punched piece, because what I'm then going to do is come in with my Poppy Parade scrap, which was a leftover from cutting out the pieces for the box and the card, and then that is going to go on there. And it will then have a nice little frame around the outside. And again, using a wet glue means you've got a little bit of wiggle room so that you can pop everything square. The only thing I need to do with these now, I have already put dimensionals on the back because, again, for speed, we are at 17 minutes already. So I don't think we need to spend too much time on nice things like sticking dimensionals on. Once you've seen someone stick a dimensional on, frankly, I think you've seen someone stick a dimensional on. And I'm just going to do anything that's white. So there we go. Right, okay, it's moment of truth time. First thing I'm going to do is finish my card by adding all my bits together. Then we've got to stick it to the front of the box. Now you could, if you wanted, make the box and then just stick a card on front, so make a full-size box, but it does seem an awful waste. And Sam's idea struck me as being quite a good idea. That's, as I say, Samantha Clayton. So take those bits off. Pop him on the front of your card, just at the bottom there. And moment of truth. Okay, so let's make sure that this is all stuck down nicely. Remove all of your bits of cover for your tear and tape. Like that. You can try and keep that closed. It may not want to stay closed, but it's worth a try. It just gives a bit more rigidity. And then I'm going to stick myself to the card or to the box. So line up. This is the fiddly bit, the really fiddly bit. So you want to line up top and bottom, but also sides. I think I'm going to line up the bottom rather than the sides first. So let's line up the bottom. Get that stuck down, then we can concentrate on everything else. So that's the side, that's that side, and there we go. And then just sort of give it a run round. This is the point where you can get your bone folder or ruler and just go round on the inside and just press against it, just to make sure. Then pop our little Hershey bar in and close the lid, and we are done. Hurrah! So there we have it, 2 little Hershey wrappers, also known as fun Christmas cards. So I hope you enjoyed that. It's a little bit of a different way of gifting a chocolate bar. I love the hashtag Elfie with the no peeking and who says it has to be traditional Christmas colours. Just go with the papers that you're using. Thank you very much indeed for joining me again today. Do remember, if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, and if you don't already subscribe, you can hit the subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner. Questions, comments, leave those below in the comments below the description bar. In the description bar there is a link to the blog post where I've got close-ups of these and the dimensions and all that good stuff. And a list of what I use. If you're in the UK and would like any product, please consider buying from me. There's a link both below and over on my website to my online store. Thank you very much indeed for joining me again today, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye!